An Offshore Tax Haven Essay Guide. Offshore Tax Haven Introduction. The money laws in Canada and the United States roughly state that if you leave your home country with more than $9,999 cash, it's perfectly legal, but you have to declare it and file some customs forms so they can keep tabs on you. If you enter the US or Canada with more than $9,999 cash without declaring it on the customs form, they can seize it, give you a warning or fine you. After the Homeland Security debacle in the world, some banks in some nations will not let you open an account unless you have residency status, which is pretty easy to get. Just file the paperwork at that country's embassy as a retiree or something like that. In some countries in the Caribbean, you walk into a bank with cash, maybe show ID, but you don't need residency status and open a bank account. If you have loads of money, offshore tax havens will help you get it out of your home country electronically. One easy way is simply say it's to buy a home in the foreign country, even though banks in most countries report to the tax office if you move more than $9,999 electronically to a foreign country. For the average guy with extra money but not a lot, simply pick a country. Suppose you pick Mexico. Get the 1-year residency visa at the Mexico consulate in order to avoid hassles when opening a bank account. Pick a spot you like. Go there, open a bank account with about $9,000 that you can leave your home country with, Canada or US, without filing a form, then every year go in with another $9,000 or so until you retire, then live there and the tax people in your home country can't touch you. You're a small fry to them anyway. Their rule is that they can find tax liability on anyone, but they only go after the big fish or the people who anger them off and give them a hard time. There was a video on YouTube about a government senior IRS executive coaching the new tax agents about how to screw people. He basically said they're all scared, they don't know the law, you can tax violations on anybody. Smart people with money protected because there could be lawsuits filed on them at any time, or some government agency could freeze their accounts or seize them for real or imagined charges. Some people want to disappear for whatever reason and start a new life. Some people are in debt. They want to escape it. Some people have a past they want to escape, like divorces, alimony, criminal records, a bad reputation, enemies, etc. The information changes. At one time it was easy to open a foreign bank account. It's harder it is now with all this homeland security propaganda everywhere. Chapter 1. Offshore Tax Havens 1. Offshore Tax Havens 1. The only thing you have to remember about offshore investing is that you have to get your money out of your home country without the taxman or court trustees getting it first, then find a safe country where you can put your money in a bank without any income or investment taxes getting levied on it. The only other thing is that you have to pick a country where the banks or the government don't roll over for the big capitalist countries like United States and Britain, who try to bully them into giving up the names of their account holders who are citizens of their countries. That's the strength of a tax haven. Your money is safe and private. Nobody can find out it's there, not even the big, bad American government. Try number 343.710 or H179 at the library. The ironic thing about foreign tax havens is that in your home country, your government is suspicious of you, has many tax rules and wants to suck as much money as they can out of you, but if you go to any other country as either a tourist or a resident, particularly if it's a tax haven country without income taxes, you're treated very well. They don't hassle you about your money. Your money can always be subject to seizure by your government in your home country, but in stable foreign countries, they can't touch the accounts of foreigners or foreigners wanting to be citizens. Every country treats its foreign visitors and investors better than it treats its own citizens. In foreign countries, banks are more multidimensional than American banks. They offer many more services such as trading stocks, keeping your account in any world currency you want, and the interest rates are generally better than in American banks. This is because the American government has regulated the country to its eventual demise, or at least radical change after critical mass is reached and enough people get mad enough, which will happen at some point in time. The United States is great for foreigners to come in and deposit their money into accounts and invest it in other ways just as long as they stay less than 122 days a year, beyond which they are liable for taxes and don't become American citizens. For American citizens, any money or properties they own is not safe. It can be seized anytime by the whims of the IRS or a civil court judge. As a citizen of any country with tax rules, your only realistic options are: 1. Put as much of your assets as you can into foreign accounts where your home country government has no jurisdiction over them. 2. Set yourself or your existing business up as a foreign corporation, then return to your home country operating as this foreign business. You will be a representative of this foreign corporation, subject to all kinds of breaks because every government wants foreign investment in order to get employment and business for its own citizens. 3. Go extreme. Renounce your American citizenship, get citizenship elsewhere, then go back to the US to do business, but don't stay longer than 122 days a year, otherwise you will become a resident and be taxed on income. In essence, the golden rules are to move as many of your assets out of your home country as possible, sell your real estate holdings and be as liquid as possible in case you have to make a quick exit to avoid the tax people, creditors, ex-spouses, or people filing civil lawsuits against you. The concept of being judgment-proof is very simple. Get all your major assets out of the country you are currently living in, regardless of how safe you feel. Even sell your house to a relative if you want and pay rent, just as long as you have nothing tangible to attach to your name except for a used car and an account with $1,000 in it. The reason for this is that, assuming you are a moderately successful business person or employee somewhere, you can never be sure that the IRS won't swoop in on you all of a sudden. You get a civil lawsuit filed against you, you get a divorce, or you get charged with one of the many ridiculous crimes out there classified as criminal felonies. If you think you're above all that, that's what every other person thought before the IRS targeted them, and that's what they do. They look for successful small businesses and set out to make money off them. It has nothing to do with honesty or morality. Their job is to make money for the IRS. That's their job description, and with the way the IRS laws are in all their tedium and trivialities, they can make a criminal out of anybody. Somebody once said the way to make a conservative a liberal is to send him to jail for a few days. All it takes is one bad incident with the IRS, which routinely happens every day for hundreds of people, and you should become the biggest cynic around and not trust anybody, especially the government. But why wait until it happens to you and they seize your assets and trash your fortune? Live proactively. It's very easy to set up bank accounts in other stable nations. You can even set up brokerage accounts and trade American stocks from an account in another country. The concept of the offshore account is to have an account in any country but the country you live in, work in, and pay taxes in. For a Norwegian, an account in America would be an offshore account. As a foreigner, this Norwegian's account would be private and he would be subject to no taxes by the American government. Regardless of where you live, simply get your money out of your home country and put it into an account in a stable country that preferably does not have a tax treaty with your country nor disclosure laws, in essence, a country that keeps its account holders' information private. When you invest money at a bank offshore, don't pick a bank that also operates in your home country. Pick a bank with no branches in your home country at all. There are many other benefits to offshore accounts. There is no capital gains taxes and all that withholding crap that brokerage companies do to your account on behalf of Uncle Sam. Once you set your accounts up, set up a signatory for them, joint status, or give a power of attorney to your heirs so that when you die, there are no estate taxes, no inheritance taxes, no probate, and no lawyer's fees. Your heirs simply take over ownership of your accounts. If you own a company, you can very easily incorporate its headquarters in another country like Panama, which specializes in this kind of stuff. Then get your Panama passport or a passport from any decent country, renounce American citizenship, and as long as you spend less than 122 days in the US every year, you owe no personal income taxes. In my opinion, step 1 is to get most of your assets out of country where you live now one way or another, either all in one shot or little by setting up a bank account, then sending $8,000 money orders or money transfers from your ATM or credit card directly into your account. If you transfer money out using your ATM or credit card, close your domestic account every year and open a new one at a different bank. Even though most bank records are kept for 20 years, it still helps every time you confound the paper trail a little bit. The United States has an exit tax for Americans wanting to leave with their nest egg, so get it out now bit by bit so that when it comes time to make the big move, you have nothing left in America to tax. Step 2 is to apply for residence status, which is easy if you have enough money to not be a burden on the country, which I cover more extensively in my travel book. Here is where I'm not as strict as the others in this field who I've read about. They say the best way is to have your money in an account that is different both from your country of origin and your country of retirement/current residence, especially if your new country of residence has some kind of taxes. But I'm lazy, I have all my money in one package already. It's not earned in the country I currently live in, so they have no reason to even charge me an income tax if they have such a tax, which some countries don't, like Bermuda. What these sophisticated tax haven experts say is you set up your accounts in offshore tax haven country X, then go off to live or get a residence permit in country Y, which will eventually net you a second passport over and above your passport from your country of origin. Once you have this second passport, keep it hidden, with a trusted friend, in a package with a mail forwarding service or with the bank manager at the bank where your foreign account is, and on a phone call or fax from you, instructions to mail it to you should you ever need it. This way you're covered against all possibilities. You get an ATM card to get instant cash from your offshore account regardless of where you live. You can do stock trades over the internet, and you can write checks in large denominations and deposit them to your small account in the country where you are living to get a big pile of money if you need it. Continue to live in your original country if you want, or move and return occasionally. Just remember that even if you get a second passport, you are still considered an American citizen unless you physically renounce citizenship with the Department of State. And even if you live outside the U.S., as an American citizen, the law is that you must file a tax return every year and pay taxes on money earned outside the country. There is currently an $80,000 exclusion, $160,000 for a couple, plus living expenses, but if you earn more than this outside of the country while living elsewhere, you still owe taxes on it to Uncle Sam. The IRS keeps lists of Americans who live abroad and either don't file tax returns or file what looks like fraudulent tax returns and attach IRS warrants to them, such that if you enter the country at an international airport using your American passport and the border guard decides to run your name through the computer, the IRS warrant will come up and you will be arrested for tax evasion. The best way is to take a plane to either a Canadian or Mexican border town. Don't carry much luggage with you and mosey across the border either using your original or second passport, acting like a tourist who has just been in Canada or Mexico for a day or two shopping. There is a much lower chance of them checking you out against IRS warrants if you do it this way. If you've made your fortune and get most of your assets out of the US but continue to live in the US, the IRS can throw you in jail until you cough up some tax dough, like they did to the famous lawyer F. Lee Bailey, who did 45 days until he got tired and gave them $16 million. Personally, I think the United States is a good country, but it doesn't have the few things I'm really interested in, like legal sex or recreational substances, so for a guy like me, I have to go elsewhere in order to live out my definition of freedom, which is to do anything I or anyone else pleases by themselves or with consenting adults, as long as they don't bug people who don't want to be bugged. There are many cheap, beautiful and freer places to live. America is not the land of the free anymore. There are too many laws plus a massive brainwashing effect perpetrated on the citizenry via the mass media, the government, and the public schools. My point is that the world is big and there are great places to live. If you have to constantly worry about the IRS or Canada's CRA locking you up for unpaid taxes, why bother? Move, get another passport somewhere else. Read a biography of Paul Gauguin or any of Paul Theroux's travel books. Canada and the United States are not the center of the universe. In the more progressive tax havens like the Austrian, Liechtenstein, and Swiss banks, you can choose the particular world currency you want your account in. If you don't like American dollars, you can get it in euro, dollars, yen, or any major currency you want. Once you set up an offshore account, don't keep the paperwork laying around your house and don't access your account through a computer in your house unless you have an external hard drive that you keep well hidden. If the IRS finds this specific info in a swoop of your home, they will go to the bank, say you're a criminal and demand all the assets in your account under threat of being mean to that particular country and bank. In the US, charities or non-profit corporations are heavily regulated. In many other countries, they are not. Set yourself up as a non-profit corporation in country X by going to their registrar of corporations and filling out the forms, or simply pay a bank manager where you will have this non-profit corporate account or lawyer to do it for you, and you're all set to donate oodles of your assets in America to it, tax-free and legal. Don't bank in third world nation. Bank in modern, stable nations. Don't bank in foreign branches of any bank or brokerage in America. If they can punch your name into Bank X and see that you have an account in country X, that's enough knowledge and probable cause for them to seize it if the IRS or some divorce or civil court has a judgment against you. Never forget, 99% of the game is what they don't know they can't get. Set up at least 2, preferably 3, or more accounts if you're rich, in foreign banks close to each other for convenience sake. 1 to 4 accounts will have your mother lode. One will be a spending account on which you will have a credit card and ATM card, preferably not in your personal name but in the name of your nominee company, which will cost you a few $100s to register as such with that country's registrar of corporations, after which there might be an annual fee, but even if you don't pay that annual fee to keep that name, you still own it de facto until somebody else wants it. Then they have to find you first to vacate it or post an ad in the local newspaper inviting challenges to the name before they can use it. This is one way these little tax haven nations make their money, by charging several $100s for every corporation registered, then charging an annual fee every year after that. The reason to keep your ATM and credit cards in a company name, because if you are ever arrested for tax evasion in your home country and they check the account on your credit card and find your mother lode there, they can easily confiscate because you are now a criminal according to US law. So they just go to country X and say you're a criminal, having been charged with tax evasion, suspected of conspiracy, organized crime, money laundering, etc. And that country will cough it up. If the credit card is in a corporate name in a tax haven country, unlike Switzerland which wants the disclosure of personal names attached to corporations, there will be no disclosure on who owns company X. In most countries, tax evasion is a civil issue as opposed to a crime. Your safest bets are income tax-free nations like Andorra, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Channel Islands SARC, Gibraltar, minimal tax, Ireland, for writers, Liechtenstein, Monaco, Paraguay. The nations with the meanest tax collectors who fight hard to get their tax cheats are all the 4 Scandinavian nations: Canada, France, Germany, Switzerland, United States. One thing I heard about offshore educators or offshore consultants. Basically, if they're operating from within the United States, they could be undercover IRS agents looking to amass a mailing list of people they will be investigating for tax evasion, or they could be honest people, but the American government has enacted laws that automatically makes them snitches. They are required to turn over all their information on their clients whenever they're requested to. Because of the American government's ability to successfully intimidate whoever they want and easily put these offshore consultants out of business, none of them in their right minds would tell you useful information because it would just put them on a hit list for the IRS. They're just trying to sell you some watered-down information or a useless financial investment instrument. Your only solid information will come from outsiders, lawyers, accountants, consultants, and money managers operating outside the borders of the US in tax haven nations. I'm not an American citizen, never was, never will be. I've already traveled through the United States and have no need or desire to go back. I don't particularly need the bright lights of Vegas. I have other interests. I can be honest because the IRS has no jurisdiction over me. Any American accountant, lawyer, or financial advisor has no privacy expectation, especially when intimidated by the government, so they will give up any records they have on you and your investments, including foreign accounts, in a flash to save themselves. I have nothing to fear from the American IRS, therefore I'll try to help you beat them. If you ever need a large amount of cash to transport around, the biggest denomination bill on the planet as far as I know is the Singapore $10,000 bill, equal to about $7,500 US. 100 of these, which can fit in one hand, is $1 million. I read somewhere that anybody can open a bank account in Mexico using any name they want. On top of this, Americans can cross freely into Mexico without getting a passport stamped. You could open an account in Mexico, deposit your money into it from the US. And from there, with a credit card issued by your Mexican banker, you can transfer money to an offshore account in a fiscally more stable country. Mexico's peso has had large devaluations in the past. It's best not to keep your motherlode in Mexico unless you get an account in another currency like American dollars. Offshore tax havens too. The battle cry is to keep 100% of what you earn. Currently the law is that you have to report any foreign/offshore bank accounts on your tax return if it's over $10,000. If it's under $10,000 or you have over 25 of these accounts, you don't have to list them. Once you realize that nobody will know what you're doing offshore unless you tell them, or carelessly leave paperwork laying around that can be scooped up in a search warrant, you're on your way. The reality is that tax laws are unjust. Unjust laws must be broken by enlightened people simply because disobedience against unjust laws has been the precursor for all of our leaps forward in the political realm. It is legal to electronically send all the money you want out of the country without filing any forms. The banks and financial institutions will do the transactions, then obey the law and file a report on it to the Treasury Department. The IRS might ignore it, they might not. It's anybody's guess. Remember, there are thousands of such transactions made daily in world business deals. It will be all on computer. Chances are no individual will ever see it unless they pull it up to do an investigation on you. You can donate all the money you want electronically to a foreign charity that you have created and own, electronically without filing any forms. You can transport paper currency such as cash or traveler's checks across borders, but if it's over $9,999, you have to file a form with the Treasury Department. The bad part about this is that it could raise red flags and prompt an IRS investigation of you. When you take your money to a foreign bank, all of them will welcome it if you're just a hard-working guy or gal trying to avoid taxes in your home country. They could care less about stuff like that, but they have rules to follow, and if they don't, they could lose their jobs. They have to make sure you're not laundering money from either of four ventures: organized crime, sex industry, drug trafficking, insider trading/white-collar crime. You have to be upfront with them. Don't volunteer information, but if they ask, just tell them you want to set up an account because you're contemplating a divorce in your home country. All foreign countries have to play ball with legal judgments in other countries, or at least the ones that want to be respected by others do. What this means in plain English is that if an IRS agent or your ex-wife's lawyer shows up at Bank X in tax haven country Y with a court order showing a legal judgment against you, most countries will not sacrifice their reputation as a private banking center by turning over the goods, but if there is a criminal charge, not tax evasion, which is not a crime but a civil matter in most countries, like money laundering or organized crime conspiracy, some judge in that country will turn over your assets to them. The morale to the story is that if they don't know you have that account, they can't show up with a court order demanding your assets, which is why you have to keep quiet about it and don't leave any paperwork on it around your house. When you fill out your tax return, you are supposed to check a box if you have foreign accounts. If you check in the affirmative, you are supposed to file another form with all the details of these foreign assets. The deal is what the government tax people don't know: they can't tax or take from you. Millions of people now and in the past have had foreign accounts that they didn't report to the government. The potential penalties for wrongfully checking that box on your tax form are a $500,000 fine and 5 years in jail for each year you don't mark this X where the tax people say you should for owning foreign assets and not reporting them. My question is whether this is a moral issue or is it just government greed. I'll say it again, hide your offshore bank statements or don't even get them sent to your home. Keep it all on the internet, have your statements sent to a mail drop in another country or to friend. Only access your account from a computer terminal at a cyber cafe or at the library or use a hidden laptop with wireless internet access so as not to leave an imprint on your hard drive. Smart offshore banks that cater to their customers have accounts with no name on them, just a list of deposits and withdrawals with no links to you, the person. These are called bearer securities or sparbook accounts. Another method is to set up your personal accounts offshore as Company X, which no one knows is you except for the bank or financial services firm that set it up for you. Still another method some people use when they go offshore is to put their account in a totally new name. In some countries, when you get citizenship, you can choose any name you want. This is a good way to separate yourself from your past. It is perfectly legal for an American citizen to have an account offshore and to trade stocks offshore, but he has to report it to the IRS. Whereas in America, the brokerage firm would withhold some of the capital gains for taxes. If your stock account is offshore, it's your responsibility to calculate, report and pay taxes on your capital gains, but the bottom line is that the only way they will ever know is if 1. They somehow intercept one of your bank statements from your foreign accounts. 2. Somebody you don't like gets a hold of hard evidence like your financial statements and gives them to the IRS. Scorned wives and business partners occasionally do this. The operative word is always secrecy. The problem for tax collectors, lawyers, and creditors is they can't collect what they don't know you own. It's that simple. Pretty well all countries in the world will not extradite anyone for a tax crime. Most of the world except the United States, Canada, and a few other countries see taxes as civil matters, not crimes. The solution is logical. If you have a tax or lawsuit judgment problem in one jurisdiction in one area, you leave that area with both your assets and physical body. Then when they can't find you, they give up on the case, and if it's still pending, it dies. There will never be a trial and you're in the clear if you want to go back. The United States government has enacted laws for itself, giving its agents the right to go anywhere in the world and kidnap anyone fleeing from American justice to take him or her back to either face trial or face whatever judgment was already handed down to them, even if what they're doing is illegal in other countries. So if they want citizen X who is now living in France, they might break his door down, forcibly restrain him, take him to the American embassy, then put him on a plane, which is all fine by their standards, but this is break and enter, assault and kidnapping according to French law, but they do it anyway. Chances are they wouldn't go to all this trouble to nab an average tax evader, but they have given themselves these powers. The American government routinely changes its tax laws in order to legally steal money from its citizens. They did it with retirement savings plans, annuities, offshore bank charters, and they will continue to do it. Think like a contrarian. Where would someone go looking for someone like you? Probably close to the home country like Mexico or Canada, or at one of the English-speaking tax haven nations in the Caribbean. Beyond that is Europe. Every other place is out. Even Australia is considered too far, although it's just a 12-hour plane ride away. Hardly anyone would think of looking for you in Goa, India, Bali, Indonesia, Pattaya, Thailand, Rio, or Paraguay. Poor Andrew Luster, the spoiled rich kid who raped a bunch of women by knocking them out with a date rape drug, took off to Mexico when it looked like he was going to get life in jail, but I guess he was too stupid to not go any further than Acapulco. Now he's rotting in a jail. If it was me, I would have probably gone to South Africa, rented a little house somewhere and kept a very low profile. Then I would have moved every year or so. Offshore tax havens. 3. Your foreign accounts are protected as long as they are secret. One technique to get all your money out of your home country is to simply electronically transfer it all to foreign account X. It's legal, you don't fill out any special form with the IRS. You just have to report ownership of foreign accounts on your tax return at the end of the year. There are millions of international financial transactions going in and out of the US every day. Your local financial institution will fill out an electronic form and forward it to the Treasury Department that you sent X number of dollars to a foreign bank account. They have to do this by law for all transactions over between $3,000 to $10,000 depending on what you read and believe. As far as I know, banks are required to electronically report all transactions over $10,000, transactions meant to bypass this law like transactions of $9,900 or so plus any cycle of suspicious transactions to the U.S. Treasury Department. Anybody who buys more than $3,000 in traveler's checks gets a report sent to the IRS. Basically what will happen is that this electronic form will go into a computer database where it will be cross-checked against the names and SSNs of known criminals, fugitives, and tax evaders, and if there is no hit, it will sit there unread until such time as you are being investigated by the IRS for tax evasion or other crimes. Then they see that you made these transactions to foreign accounts, but by then, your money will be long gone out of that first foreign bank account to other foreign banks. The way to transfer your money is to first do a few electronic transactions to see how smoothly they go. If all goes well, get your money out fast. Do it in a few big transactions. If anyone asks, say you're buying a house over there. To further secure yourself, make your foreign account the name of a corporation so that it looks like you're paying a bill for products or services rendered rather than transferring money from an account in your own name to an account in your own name. What you do now that the money is out of your home country is start other foreign accounts at other banks in other countries and either transfer the money through cash, anonymous money orders or drafts, or simply write checks on your foreign account to these other foreign accounts. If you have not been charged with a major crime that is also a crime in the countries where your foreign accounts are, like drug dealing, organized crime, dealing in child porn, money laundering, they are under no obligation to reveal your account info to any foreign government. Because the IRS has no idea where your money is, they can't get it. They could throw you in jail until you cough it up, but if you're at a point where your mother lode is out of your home country and you know they're sniffing at you for tax evasion, don't be a fool and stay in your home country. The world is big. There are plenty of nice places to live. Your kids can come visit you. When you have a mother lode stash, the stupidest thing to do is to put it all in one account. Based on all I've read, American government bureaucrats are relentless when they want to get someone. They'll use the dirtiest tricks around to find where their target's offshore accounts are, and by virtue of their target citizen having an offshore account, they will make the accusation that you are laundering money and involved in organized crime conspiracies, which are crimes in most countries. So by tax treaty rules, if it's a crime in a tax haven country, then another country like the United States, once it has specific information about target citizen X's accounts, approaches the Justice Department of the tax haven country saying that citizen X has been charged with money laundering and organized crime activities. So because these charges are also crimes in the tax haven country, citizen X's assets are then removed and handed over to these American government agents. For your mother lode accounts, don't do anything that will leave a paper trail. Even when you transfer money from your big mother lode accounts to your spending accounts in other offshore banks, do it with cash or an anonymous money order or something like that. Your spending account will have the credit and ATM cards you use attached to it. If you are arrested for tax evasion in the US, they can do a trace on these cards and see that they're connected to a foreign account, and from there it's easy to charge you with money laundering, then show up and confiscate that account. There won't be that much money in there, but if there is a paper trail to your mother lode account, you're sunk. Do not use your own phones to call the bank where your mother lode money is, otherwise it will be on your phone records. The same holds true with an internet account from your home. Use the library or a cyber cafe. Get a confidential answering service to take all your emails, faxes, and phone calls from your mother lode account. Tell your foreign banks, you don't want any paper statements sent to you. You will simply use the internet. Offshore accounts don't require you to furnish an American Social Security number, so don't worry about this mark of the beast number following you to the ends of the earth. In all tax haven countries without income tax, Tax evasion is not a crime, therefore these nations are under no obligation to turn over any individual's account assets just because he has been charged with tax evasion elsewhere. All contributions to retirement savings plans and pensions are only tax deferred until you start withdrawing this money at the age of 59.5 or so, then you start paying tax on it as part of your annual income. Save yourself the hassle by putting all your savings in a foreign account now so that it won't be taxed later. Nobody can predict how long their marriage will last. The way to judgment-proof yourself is to hide your major assets offshore and don't tell your spouse about them. If it ever comes to a divorce judgment, you'll have 3 options. 1. What they don't know you own, they can't get. 2. They suspect you have foreign assets, so they throw you in jail for contempt of court, but since divorce is a civil matter, not criminal, they can't keep you there for very long. 3. You simply vanish, leave the country, go live off your mother lode for a while until the heat cools off and everybody forgets about this minor divorce case. By the way, in addition to putting out IRS warrants for Americans living abroad who don't file tax returns, they also put your name on a warrant with the passport office, so if you go to renew your passport, they got you. For Americans living abroad filing taxes, you get an $80,000 exclusion plus living expenses or $160,000 plus expenses for a couple. Regardless of how much money you make offshore, you doctor your tax form to make it look like you earn less than your exclusion and live within this salary level, because tax agents do physically go around and look at your standard of living in order to help them determine if you are earning more money than you claim to be. As far as the domestic lawyers, accountants, and money managers in your home country go, if they suggest anything illegal to you, they are immediately co-conspirators. If you tell them anything about hiding money from the tax man and they don't report it, they are co-conspirators in the legal sense. The spirit of these people is to make money by constantly selling you new services. They don't want you to move your money offshore where they won't earn any more off you. In order to sincerely help you would violate the spirit of what they do. I say, except for minimal legal advice, never breathe a word about your illegal intentions, don't use them. You will get better advice from the lawyers, accountants, and money managers in tax haven nations who specialize in asset protection, as opposed to the homie lawyer who just wants to make money off you by selling useless investment instruments. Offshore tax havens. 4. Once you transfer most of your money out of your home country into mother lode account temporarily and from there transfer it to other foreign accounts in order to further confound the paper trail, it's a good idea to keep this account for 3 reasons. 1. Since this is the first point of departure for your money, you can ask the bank if any government agency or private investigators have made any inquiries about it. 2. If you're still paying income taxes in your home country, this could be your front account, the one that you report in your tax returns. 3. It's a good idea to keep one foreign transit account as a temporary holding place when you're moving money around. An idea if you have a front account that you're claiming on your income tax form as your foreign account is to have 2 accounts at the same bank, so when they see the paper trail leading to that bank, they have no reason to think you have a larger, private account at the same bank. In any event, the paper trail normally stops at this account in a tax haven nation. Private investigators will not be able to get these bankers to disclose any account information to them. Government authorities will be able to penetrate it only with lots of hassles and difficulty by claiming that you are a criminal who has committed a crime that is also a crime in that country, like money laundering, drug dealing, organized crime, etc., not tax evasion, which can't be a crime in a nation that doesn't have income taxes like Bermuda. Be wary of leaving a paper trail from this legal, transit account to your other mother lode accounts. Deal in cash, gold, anonymous money orders or bearer securities when transferring money, that is, if you're really paranoid and have good cause to be, but if you're a small fry, the most elementary steps are often enough to protect you from prying tax people in your home country. If you want to further confound the paper trail, continue to move your money through as many other foreign banks in different countries as you want. The effort to investigate you and try to get access to the information in each of these accounts would be too monumental to be worth it unless you're a major criminal. If you're really paranoid, convert your money into gold bars or cash, bury them or put them in a foreign safety deposit box and sit on them for several years before you convert them back into an electronic account. There is an anonymous financial instrument called bearer securities, which are essentially unregistered stocks or bonds that you can buy which have serial numbers but your name is not registered. They are something like cash in terms of possession. The person holding these pieces of paper is the legal owner. To redeem them, take them where you bought them from or an affiliate and ask for the cash or a check. Like cash, keep them well hidden because a thief can redeem them. If you lose them or they burn in a fire, you will lose their total value unless you photocopy the receipt when you buy them and possibly photocopy the bearer securities themselves. Take them to your bank with your ID and a letter stating to cancel the ones you bought and make up new replacement ones, which they will do for a modest fee, about 5% of their value. It's the same basic procedure as with lost travelers' checks or checks. Some people convert money into diamonds, rare coins, stamps, art or antiques, but I personally think that these are all fake fields created by bored people and will not fly for down-to-earth people. The truth about the diamond industry is that there is an overabundance of diamonds in the world. They can create them artificially and they keep supply artificially low in order to keep the prices high. Diamonds are a fake commodity created by advertising. It's a stupid little rock that supposedly means a pledge of love, but that's bull for enlightened people. I wouldn't invest in diamonds. They are used in industry, but most of the money comes by selling them to suckers who think it means something if they waste a bunch of money in order to proclaim their love for someone. The love should be there. A diamond or the size of it should have nothing to do with it. The other ones are stamps, coins, art, etc. These are all fields for bored people with a high sense about themselves. They're all artificial. When the poop hits the fan as in a recession, the value of these things are the first to go. Who will buy them? There are very few buyers in the world. It's always a headache to sell them through an auction house. They're not liquid. If you have to bail in a hurry, you can't take your art or antiques with you. The stamps or coins could be your undoing because they're so high profile that if the cops put the word out to the coin world to watch for a particular series of coins, there's your privacy right there. If you're worried about the political stability of a foreign tax haven country like, say Panama, for example, simply put your assets in a large, major bank there that has its headquarters in another country and no branches in your home country. There are many of these European and Asian banks banking all over the world. Look them up in Polk's directory of banks. The way it works when you deposit a check or any electronic money into a bank as opposed to gold or cash is that this deposit is registered in a computer at the bank headquarters and that's where it stays. The bank HQ uses it on a short-term basis to make overnight loans and play the currency markets to make money for themselves. Your deposit via check is just a blip in a computer. No bank can claim to you that just because some dictator took the country over, your funds are gone. Your money is all at the head bank in a computer blip. For a bank to claim to have lost all their customers' funds in a country where there is a political changeover is firstly a lie because electronic money doesn't work that way, only gold and cash do, and secondly, for a bank to do this would be to sacrifice their reputation. Reputation in banking is everything. It's a very competitive business. If you try to sleaze some money out of account holders by claiming you lost it because of a coup in the country, it's a lie. All financial people know it. You will lose customers and soon go out of business. When you go to set up a foreign bank account, deal only with long-established banks that you see listed in Polk's directory of banks. Don't just send your money to some place advertising as a great foreign bank that you saw in an ad somewhere. If you want financial services with a foreign lawyer, accountant, consultant, or money manager, check them out before you give them money. Pay them only for services/advice, not to manage your money. Nobody manages your money but you unless you don't mind losing it. Ads are the worst places to find a financial expert or an accountant. Even the local phone book is better. If these lawyers, accountants, and financial services people are so smart, why are they trying to make money off commissions by selling you some tax shelter financial instrument when they could be in the investment world making big bucks like the big timers? Deal with companies with at least 6 employees as opposed to individuals operating as a one-man show. Even an honest one-man show could suddenly die, have to flee for matters unrelated to you, or get arrested, leaving you hanging. As an expat anywhere, look for the English-speaking expat community, then ask around about expat lawyers, accountants, etc. Your best bet would be to find an expat professional from the same country as you. There tends to be a bond there and they will give good advice, but it's not foolproof. Just because someone is from your home country doesn't mean they won't rip you off. Offshore tax havens 5. There are all kinds of ads in the investment publications and on the internet claiming that they will show you how to shield your money from taxes by creating an asset protection trust, a foundation, or something like that, but they all lie for a few very simple reasons. These lawyers, accountants, and financial service providers that do these services are just trying to line their own pockets by selling you this overpriced tax shelter financial instrument. They are a bunch of paper-pushing pansies who will roll and give up their list of clients as soon as the government comes in and intimidates them. Anything created domestically does not have real protection. The government and civil court judges can take it away at will. If you're in some kind of civil trial and you claim your house is owned by some trust and you're the caretaker and some charity owns your car which you get to use because you're the registered agent in your state, the judge will see through it, call you a liar, give you 30 days to prove you're telling the truth while freezing all these assets. He could even throw you in jail citing you're a flight risk, leaving you to set up your defense from in the slammer. After 30 days, you will have no case. No one will show up on your behalf. The truth will be evident that these are all sham smokescreens you had set up which you control, so the judge will confiscate them all to sell at public auction to satisfy your creditors and slap a 3-year jail sentence on you for trying to con him, called contempt of court, perjury, or fraud. Take your pick. If you want to take the route of setting up a foundation, trust, or a non-profit corporation with yourself as the head, the only viable way to do it is to set up foreign ones where your assets are beyond the reach of your home country's justice system. It's very easy to do. Just because you're in another country doesn't make it any harder. Just go to some guy who does these things, lawyer, accountant, financial planner, or go to the government's corporate office and set it up yourself by paying the fee and filling out the forms. All those ads you see promoting some kind of way to save on taxes, if it's a domestic technique, it's bull because the government has ultimate control of everything domestic, and furthermore some of these ads are undercover IRS sting operations where they take all responses to their ads on how to beat the IRS at their own game and investigate them for tax evasion. If you plan to take deductions on your taxes for large charitable contributions, what you're doing is sending out a red flag to be audited and or investigated. Offshore tax havens 6. In the United States, financial privacy is virtually non-existent due to the Bank Secrecy Act, the IRS, and the SSN, which gives the feds immediate access to all the money you have in any accounts out there. The law in general is that financial institutions and investment firms must file a report to the IRS for all transactions that come to $3,000 or more, including the purchase of money orders or traveler's checks. Anytime $10,000 or more is brought into or leaves the United States physically as opposed to electronically, you have to declare it with U.S. Customs and put on your income tax report that you have a foreign bank account if you do. Also, anytime this $10,000 or more transaction is made electronically, the IRS gets a third-party report from the financial institution. Later, they can use these reports to compare with your income tax returns and determine if you are trying to cheat them. Banks make copies of all checks over $100 which they keep in their records in case the feds want them. If you have a credit card issued in the US, they can track all transactions on that too, which I suggest a foreign credit card. A large number of third-party reports filed on you, such as transactions of $3,000 or more, is often the precursor for an IRS tax audit. The financial institution is not allowed to tell you that they are filing third-party reports on you for the IRS. If you want to keep some income private, you have to stay below the radar, which means keeping money order purchases under $3,000 and not transferring more than $9,999 out of the country in any one shot. But there's even a law that says banks must report anything they deem suspicious, like making a lot of these transactions barely under $3,000 or $10,000. There are low-risk ways to get money out of the country, like hop on a cruise ship to Aruba or take a charter to Bonaire. Their border guards on their side aren't concerned with how much cash you bring in. They're not affiliated with the American government. They know you're hiding money. They have a reputation as tax havens. They want your business. The US government generally doesn't like its citizens stashing money overseas, even if they do it legally and declare it on their taxes. This is one of the reasons they have their Bank Secrecy Act, so they can intimidate people and audit them. Another tactic they use is to put pressure on the little tax haven countries to give up some of their private information on American bank account holders. The most common ruse is to say it's in order to fight drug dealing, organized crime and terrorism, but they occasionally use outright intimidation, like they warned the Cayman Islands and the Bahamas that if they didn't reveal information about American account holders there, they would cut off aid and make it harder for Americans to travel there, thus hurting their tourist and banking industries. So the Caymans and Bahamas caved, but the stronger tax havens countries do not give in to these bullying tactics by the American government, such as Panama, which is doing fine by itself. It's a wealthy country because the Panama Canal has spawned all kinds of banks, shipping companies, and industry to locate there. Banking privacy is an integral part of Swiss law only if you're not an American. The American government accused the Swiss banking system of harboring drug dealers and criminals. The Swiss responded by quietly caving into America's demands to give up these assets and slow pit them with the American government. Beyond protecting your money from the feds, foreign bank accounts in general offer higher interest rates than bank accounts in the US. My hook is to tell you to get your money out of the US into an account in a foreign country, then you're pretty well beyond the reach of the IRS, except in the case if they profile you as a big-time crook or terrorist and put pressure on other governments to give up their bank records on you. Other than that, you're home free. Your biggest risk in putting your money in banks in stable countries like Canada, Britain, or Switzerland is the foreign exchange. It goes both ways. Sometimes foreign currencies beat out American currencies. To keep up on foreign currency fluctuations, read the Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, or the New York Times, NewYorkTimes.com. Most of us are not extremely wealthy people, so your best bet for foreign investment is simply to go to Canada or Mexico, set up an account there and get an ATM or credit card on it so you can draw money in the United States off it anytime you want. You can also buy Canada savings bonds and stocks through brokerages in Canada. I have heard that money-wise, Brazil is a messed up country to set up an account in because it's very difficult to convert the money back into American dollars. Belize is good because it was a former British colony. It advertises its banking services, as I've seen in their tourist guide. The deal is that what the American IRS doesn't know won't hurt them. In order to protect your money, you might be doing things that are technically illegal according to Uncle Sam, but if you're like me, you think the government controls your life too much, you have contempt for taxes, so you say screw the bastards. I'll do it my way until and unless they catch me, and if I'm cool and discreet, they never will catch a small-timer like me. Tell no one what you are doing and the so-called feds will have no way of tracking you, therefore of finding you. Financial privacy comes mostly from two ways: either hide your money well in cash form near where you live physically, like in a plastic, airtight bucket a few hundred yards from the road on a piece of property you own. Move it offshore to a foreign account, get a credit card on your account with a high cash withdrawal limit, and you're home free. The best way to protect your money from government tax people is to change your identity. There are books at paladinpress.com, edenpress.com, and loompanix.com that show you how to change your identity, albeit illegally, and put all your money in that other name. Beyond that, the second best way, barring burying cash on your isolated country property somewhere, is to get out of the country into an offshore account. As a bank customer in the United States, you must have no expectation of privacy. Your ass is grass. The government knows everything about your financial transactions. A low level of security is to use a mail forwarding service, a secretarial service, find them in the yellow pages, or a private mailbox. When you do this, you at least have one buffer level between your home address and your banking address. Checking accounts are bad because they leave a record of your entire personal life. If you get a paycheck at work, cash it at the bank where it's drawn, then with the cash in hand, or with money orders purchased not at the bank where you cashed your check but at the supermarket, another bank, or a corner store. Deposit it to your account, which is either in an assumed name, in the name of a nominee, or in your real name but buffered through a secretarial or mail forwarding service. Another option is to get direct deposit of your paycheck at any old bank, withdraw the cash with your ATM card, then deposit the money in your buffered, more private account. If you're serious about financial and personal privacy, phase out your use of personal checks and start using money orders, cash, and traveler's checks instead. The advantage of having a Canadian account is that you get an ATM card which you can use in the United States to get cash whenever you want, so you are free from Uncle Sam since it's all drawn on a Canadian account. What the IRS don't know won't hurt them. If you're really big and advanced, you would bypass Canada and go to Bermuda, Britain, or Australia, the safest places to set up offshore accounts. As a foreigner setting up an account there, they know what you're doing, hiding money from the tax people in your country, and have their system set up to accommodate you. Some offshore money havens are small countries without a central bank that may make a potential investor fear investing, but most of these little countries in the Caribbean have ties with Britain or the Netherlands as former colonies. They want their reputation as a solid tax haven country impeccable since the banking industry is one of their biggest moneymakers and employers. The simplest way to go is to get a foreign savings or checking account which gives you some kind of interest and get a major credit card on it. Then with the rest of your money, buy government treasury bills and savings bonds which the bank can sell you. You could buy stocks and bonds if you want to. Overall, your best bets for foreign investments are Canada, Britain, Switzerland, the Netherlands, their Caribbean possessions, Austria, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, Andorra, and Australia. The Channel Islands are self-governing territories of the United Kingdom. The major British banks operate subsidiary corporations there which are great for banking privacy, except for the fact that your deposits in any account in the Channel Islands are not backed by the British Central Bank Guarantee Fund. In Liechtenstein and Andorra, you set up dummy trusts or corporations which you then transfer funds via a Swiss bank account into and out of these two nations. Luxembourg is a good choice if you're a big timer with lots of assets because of the costs of setting up an account there. If $10 or more of interest are earned in any account in America in any year, a third-party report must be made to the IRS. Offshore tax havens 7. Before putting money away in any tax haven, contact that nation's embassy first, asking for current information about opening an account there and asking for contacts, bank addresses. The purpose of taking your money overseas and putting it into an account there is to protect yourself from the taxman in your home country as well as creditors and possible litigants. What they don't or can't get at of your assets, they will not pursue. Sure, this might be technically illegal, but it's not immoral. What's immoral is the way the politicians squander the tax money while collecting huge paychecks and pensions for sitting around in those exclusive buildings where their whims are catered to, all the way from their own restaurants to their own gyms. I, for one, will never be accused of feeling any guilt or love for these people we call our government who supposedly represent us. Your objective is to avoid creating a paper trail between your overseas investments and your accounts in America. Keep them separate. Don't make transactions between them. If you do, it will be your downfall should the IRS decide to audit you. Switzerland is the best place to bank for non-Americans because it has an independent central bank, political stability, and, because it makes a lot of money from banking, it has stringent laws protecting the privacy of its accounts holders worldwide. The U.S. government, in its attempt to catch tax cheats, occasionally runs mail covers on all people that receive letters from Switzerland and other banking countries. They are looking for correspondence from banks. This is their first tip-off to investigate someone. In order to avoid getting caught in one of these operations, set up a mail forwarding service account in another country like Canada or Britain, or tell your bank not to send you any mail, just email to your anonymous email account. You can find the addresses of these services by typing in the following term into a search engine, either Mail Forwarding Service, International, or Mail Forwarding Service, Canada. What will happen is that all your mail from your foreign bank account will be sent to them, and they will send it to your home address or any address you give them for a fee. For further security, in case you are worried about the feds spying on your home mail, get it sent to a friend's house or rent a private mailbox, preferably in the neighboring town to where you live or in an assumed name. All mail received by mail forwarding services is repacked in a larger envelope so no one will be able to see the Swiss postmark anywhere on the outside of the envelope when it reaches your premises. I may seem paranoid, but it is a commonly known fact among insiders that the US government occasionally runs mail covers on all first-class mail arriving from Switzerland. When this mail arrives in the United States, the agents look through it, pick out all mail that they think is coming from a Swiss bank, then investigate these people more. They go your tax return, then look at how many third-party reported incidents you had under the Bank Secrecy Act, transactions over $3,000, foreign transactions over $10,000. From there, they can examine your credit card and bank records, your business records, wiretap you, get a search warrant for your mail, etc. Before you start an account in Switzerland, Canada, Germany, Britain, or wherever you want, send a letter to their embassy in your home country stating that you would like to open a bank account in their country. Ask them what are the rules and if they can list a few bank addresses for you. You can start an account in person or by mail. Before you send money, send a letter asking for an account application. State the following in your introductory letter: name, country of citizenship, approximate amount of money you will invest, type of account, like a savings/checking account with credit card privileges and/or the purchase of government-backed treasury bills and savings bonds. You can even buy stocks and mutual funds if you want. Your address and telephone number. You don't have to say anything about hiding money from the tax man. That's implicitly understood. They don't care. They just want your business. They will send you the account application forms. You fill them out and send back the forms with either traveler's checks or cash by registered mail or courier like FedEx or UPS, not a personal check drawn up on your personal account in your home country. You want ties between the foreign account and your accounts in your home country. Money orders can be risky because after they are endorsed, they eventually go back to the US with the endorsement stamp on them from Switzerland. If you buy money orders, don't buy them from your bank. Buy them from supermarkets and corner stores. When you send your account application via courier, on your customs declaration, write business correspondence. If you have a money order, you don't have to sign your personal name to it, just your account number or initials. After your account is set up, you can move into other investments like stocks, government savings bonds and mutual funds if you want. There are several ways to withdraw money from a Swiss account. Universal checkbook. The account holder writes out a check in the amount and currency desired, then the check is processed normally by businesses or banks in the United States. When the check returns to Switzerland for payment, it is converted into Swiss francs. Your account is debited. The better alternative is the bank card with a Visa and MasterCard symbol, which allows you to use this ATM card at any retail shop almost like a credit card, but not quite, since the money is debited from your account. With a real credit card, your account would be debited $50 if it's stolen. With this ATM card, if it's stolen, you're liable for all losses, so you have to be very careful with it to ensure that if you notice it's missing, that you contact the bank to cancel it immediately. Even though the local merchant in the US keeps a copy of the sales slip, there are no account records kept on your Swiss bank card in the United States. Most credit cards issued outside of the United States are completely safe to use in the US without fear of leaving a paper trail. You can get cash with these. It's the best way to go. There are consulting companies out there that help you for a fee in establishing an offshore account. Find them on the internet. The Bank Secrecy Act imposes record-keeping and photocopying requirements on the nation's banks. It requires the reporting of money taken abroad. If a person transports $10,000 in cash, traveler's checks, and/or bearer bonds over the border, this will be reported to United States Customs. An American citizen is legally required to report any foreign account he has to the U.S. government. If you answer affirmatively to this question on the tax form, you are required to complete Treasury Department Form 90-22.1, which asks for complete details of your foreign account. Their questions include the bank name, address, account number and type, along with the name and address of each person having an ownership interest in the account. The form also asks about the highest value of funds in the account during the last year. In order to sidestep the customs rule that every time you export $10,000 or more outside of the United States, you have to report it, make sure whenever you send your deposit overseas, you do so in amounts under $10,000. If you do this, you are complying with the letter of the law, if not the spirit. The penalties contained on Form 90-22.1, the Foreign Account Declaration Form, can range up to a $500,000 fine and up to 5 years imprisonment. However, you cannot be prosecuted for simply not completing the form if you declare the income under the miscellaneous income section of the 1040 and then pay the taxes due. The IRS gets its cut and you keep your privacy. Tax haven nations generally don't tax any of your earnings. Offshore tax havens. 8. The Small Business Protection Act of 1996, Code Provision IRC Section 6048C, says that an American taxpayer who receives money from a foreign trust must make a return which includes the name of the trust, the value of it and other relevant information about it. Reporting requirements for American citizens regarding offshore corporations/trusts are getting stricter all the time, and in addition, the United States is putting pressure on some of these tax haven countries to reveal their account holder lists to them, so it's your call. It's not that hard to hide money offshore, but it is illegal according to American law and you could get caught, but then again, the chances are small unless you're a big-time drug dealer or terrorist thereafter. The offshore account generally offers asset protection not just from the American government but also protection from forfeiture, lawsuit judgments, and privacy. Even though the U.S. government taxes the estate of the worldwide assets of the deceased, what they don't know won't hurt them. Straight up front, the easiest way to protect your money is to buy cashier's checks and money orders at banks, etc., each under $9,999, so the bank doesn't legally have to file a disclosure report, then either mail or go to an offshore bank and deposit the money there. Another way is to get a major credit card from your offshore bank, then wire your money in under $10,000 increments to your offshore account. By law, as an American, you're supposed to pay taxes on all your assets worldwide and the interest on it, but the first rule is what they don't know won't hurt them. American authorities have no rights on foreign soil, and they have much less rights trying to find out who has accounts there, unless they use the guise that you're an evil criminal/drug dealer or a terrorist. Offshore accounts are good tax havens. The law states that you can't transport more than $9,999 between borders, out of the country, without filing the customs form. This applies to all manner of securities, even traveler's checks. If banks in America wire money out of the country for you, they're supposed to file a customs form about it. Be careful, since banks are supposed to report lower transactions if they seem suspicious. An American citizen can put up to $9,999 into a foreign bank account without reporting it, but if he puts more in and doesn't report it, he's committing a felony. The $9,999 rule applies even for several foreign accounts. If the cumulative total is over $9,999, he must report it with U.S. Customs/Treasury Department Form 4790. A legal loophole around this is to open foreign accounts less than $10,000 for each member of your family. You're supposed to report it on IRS Form 4790 or Customs Service Form 4790. Check out the U.S. Banking Secrecy Act. You have to use the exchange rates calculated by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, FRB.gov. The $9,999 ceiling applies to bank accounts and CDs but not to foreign stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and other investments as long as they're not in a foreign bank account or what is called a securities account. Simply buy stocks with a foreign broker, get the certificate and hold onto it such that you don't have a brokerage account with anyone. Go to your library and check out foreign phone books or the International Corporation's reference books. Since many mutual funds are held in securities accounts, many of them don't apply to this investment loophole. Another way is to get a nominee to manage your foreign portfolio for you as explained shortly. One almost sure way to avoid prosecution by the U.S. Treasury DEPT is to move all your significant assets out. The Treasury DEPT often doesn't go after people unless they have a lot of money still in the country of the United States because it's too difficult to get at it. Incidentally, if you're a good sailor, you could sail to a Caribbean island which has good banks or take a cruise there on a cruise ship and hide a lot of money among your luggage. It's a lot safer than taking an airplane where they're often paranoid because of all the terrorist threats. Many Americans that live near the Canadian border open accounts in Canadian banks and make deposits by mailing money orders to the bank for deposit to their accounts. Some Americans that live far away from the border even do it since Canada is a safe place to hide one's money. Technically, the IRS can't go into any account you might have in Canada, but they can see the withdrawals from your checking account if you are doing it that way. The information I'm about to give applies to any country, not just Canada. They still don't know that you have an account there, they just see the debits. You just tell them you're wiring money to your sick, old aunt who's taking care of your two cousins who just emigrated from the old country. The only way they know that you have an offshore account is if you tell them. The Canadian government is pretty good about not letting the IRS snoop around in their banks. It's very easy to open a Canadian account. You can do it by mail simply by going to the library, looking through either some foreign phone books and / or a book on international banks such as Polk's Directory of International Banks. Pick a few names out, correspond by fax, letter, or phone and open an account. If you live in California, go to the British Columbia phone book and pick out a few banks in Vancouver or Victoria to write to, or find a Canadian bank that offers online banking. Just send a letter stating that you'd like to open a savings account or put some money into a CD and ask for the application forms. They might ask for a photocopy of 2 picture IDs or a notarized signature. The bank might not do it because the manager's a wimp, but all in all, they know you're hiding some money from the IRS and they don't care as long as they get the money because that's their business, getting money then lend and get out. Probably the simplest way to do it is to take a vacation in Canada, open an account in person at a bank and tell the manager up front about your intention to carry on a mail order or internet correspondence so everything's set up in place. The IRS has no jurisdiction in Canada. Everything else is the same except possibly for the different currencies. You may have to pay some conversion fee every time money changes from their currency to American currency. You can deposit checks made out to you directly to your foreign bank account without first depositing it to your local account. This leaves somewhat of a paper trail but a difficult one to detect. You should withdraw cash from your American accounts, buy money orders at the post office and at corner stores and send them via certified mail for deposit in Canada. If the IRS were to audit you, they'd see the big withdrawals, at which point you'd say you got big bills, so what? Tell them you went to Las Vegas by car and paid cash for everything. Interest rates on accounts in other countries are generally better than that of the United States. Another way is to buy traveler's checks with cash or get a friend to buy them and deposit them into your foreign account. You could transfer money from your personal savings account near home to a money market account you have with a brokerage firm, refer to earlier section, then transfer this overseas, close the money market account after 6 months and the paper trail is dead. There's no limit to how many money market accounts you can open and close like this. There are so many brokerages around all trying to get you to open an account. If you live near the Canadian border and operate a cash business, you can make your own trips and deposit cash in the Canadian bank, but I think the best way is to get a money order then send it by registered mail to your bank for deposit, because basically, if the border guards catch you with a large amount of cash on you, even if it's under the legal $9,999 limit, they might suspect that you're a drug dealer or otherwise a criminal. If you carry several $100s over at a time, it's no big deal. Be wary when you send your money order. Write the bank's name on it, your bank account number and maybe your initials, but not your name, because when the cashed money order returns back to the issuing company in America, the IRS can snoop to see who bought it, so if your name isn't on it, you're all right. Don't carry large amounts of cash on a plane. If they find it, they might suspect you as a criminal and could easily confiscate it just on suspicion alone. Your safest bet is to make your deposits electronically with registered mail money orders if possible. The above all applies to Mexico, which has a pretty stable economy. If you're a high roller hiding a lot of money, a good way to do it is to open 2 accounts at the same foreign bank, one with a low reported amount and one with the big bucks to cover your butt when the IRS checks your phone records, fax records, and mail records and find high traffic to this particular bank. You simply show them the records to your reported account and they have no way of checking on the other. If you have a high credit limit on your credit card, there's another way to transfer cash out of the country. Simply authorize the foreign bank to charge your credit card account X number of dollars and put the money into your account. When your bill comes, pay it immediately during the grace period to avoid the interest charges. The IRS might be suspicious of the charges if they ever do look over your credit card accounts, but they have no proof of wrongdoing, and besides, they rarely look at credit card accounts because they symbolize debits, not the assets they're looking for. If they ask, you can say it's payment for a trip you took up there by car and had a great old time gambling and hiring prostitutes. U.S. Government Printing Office, Washington, D.C. 20402. access.gpo.gov/SU_docs. $1 for Booklet, Currency and Foreign Transactions Reporting Act. Offshore Tax Havens 9. Avoid estate taxes by liquidating anything over $1 million and move it to Canada, Mexico, or any other country, or quietly give it away to relatives while you live. In fact, why not move abroad to a Caribbean island, Philippines, Costa Rica, or Mexico? Many Americans are relinquishing their citizenship and moving to other countries to avoid taxes. The American government has instated an exit tax whereby an American citizen who relinquishes his or her citizenship and has assets of over $500,000 or derives income from the U.S. must pay taxes on it. However, the biggest enemy of the tax man is the advent of the electronic age with respect to money. You can easily transfer all your assets to other countries electronically and the IRS will never get you as long as you don't stay in the US. Tax havens are basically countries you can go to and deposit your money into their institutions with no questions asked, no taxes on the money, and a general assurance of privacy. These countries derive a lot of money from the tax haven business, like the fees for incorporating a corporation, registration fees, etc. They also make money from the tourist trade of the people who go there and spend money on hotels, food, etc. There might be some tax on so-called corporate income, but the tax is low enough that it doesn't bother most people who go there. Many Americans use tax havens to hide unreported income. You go there, go to a bank or intermediary financial institution, they set up a dummy corporation in some name totally unconnected to your name that becomes your account with no name attached to it. Hence, you can make international transactions unfettered. You could send money to your dummy corporation, and if the IRS asks, you just say, "I'm paying my bills for the widgets they sent me for my business/work." The most basic tax haven countries where you can get banks to act as nominees in a variety of ways for a fee are Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, Panama, Hong Kong, Costa Rica, Netherlands Antilles, British Virgin Islands, Turks, Caicos, Anguilla, the Cayman Islands, Belize, in the Pacific, the Turks, Caicos, Cook Islands, the Isle of Man near Scotland, Cyprus, and Gibraltar in the Mediterranean. You can do just as well and attract less attention by opening an account anywhere else in the world, particularly Europe, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Austria, Switzerland, the Middle East, Australia, Hong Kong, etc. Britain is a good choice. There are also several good islands in the British Isles like the Channel Islands, Isle of Man, Jersey, and Guernsey. The Cayman Islands, British colony, have over 500 banks, but because of their reputation as an offshore haven, the IRS will be suspicious if they see a paper trail of you going there or making transactions to and from there. The U.S. has made agreements with several Caribbean island nations whereby if they show the attorney generals of these nations that they are investigating an individual in a criminal capacity, they will give them access to that person's financial records. Many of the big-timers are moving out of the Caribbean into Europe. Unless you're a big-timer, don't worry about it. If you're middle class and manage to hide some money in the Caribbean, you should be alright as long as you didn't leave a paper trip. The general procedure to get set up offshore is either in person, by mail, or electronically. Transfer at least $25,000 to a normal savings account at an offshore bank. Talk to one of the bank officers and have him set up a dummy corporation, which could be as simple as writing a letter on his letterhead that the money is the property of Acme Widgets, Ltd. You could simply set up an account in your own name. The best way is to have your company owned by a legally prepared sovereign trust, and you can legally avoid taxes in the U.S. Set up this nominee company to have a checking account and credit cards for your personal use. You can even manage a business in America from a company offshore, thus avoiding taxes. Just go there and they will take care of you, but first it might be wise to go to Polk's bank directory at the library, get some bank addresses, write them and be straight about your intentions. They will point you in the right direction. These countries have bank managers and investment counselors in business that can incorporate you there very easily, even though you are conducting all official business elsewhere. Their banks are very accommodating, and many will set up a dummy corporation for you, enabling you to make untraceable transactions from the States. Panama has a good incorporating atmosphere. Beware of any companies in the U.S. that offer to put your money into safe offshore bank accounts. Some are scams. Do the work yourself. Beware of internet banks offering easy internet deposit to the Cayman Islands. One was just exposed as a scam. A technique that many foreign bankers use is that they buy stocks or mutual funds for you as nominee holders and simply hold them for you, the true owner. You can get mutual fund prospectuses sent to you there and they will forward them for you. Many foreign mutual fund companies will not even send their info to a US address because they're not registered with the seconds and don't want to get into trouble. You can do this by simply signing a few forms. They can also set up a trust for you. You have to ask them about it. I must warn you that the IRS is onto tax haven tricks, and when they see you making a lot of transactions to a well-known haven, they know what's going on. If you're big time, you get around this by forming a corporation elsewhere and pretending to make your haven just a subsidiary of the phony bigger company. You can renounce your American citizenship and become a citizen in another country. Some South American bureaucrats will make you a citizen easily for $1,000 or so. Watch out for double taxation on your interest. Some countries like Switzerland have a withholding tax, but you can get a credit on your IRS taxes under the foreign tax credit rules, or a refund from the Swiss after the proper forms certified by the IRS. Inquire at your foreign bank if the country has some kind of withholding tax on the interest on your money and how it relates to foreigners. Very few countries tax the interest on the money of non-residents. If a foreign bank does not have American branches, you're safer via secrecy and non-disclosure than if it does, because the American government can make threats against these foreign banks in the US, like threaten to close them down or make life miserable for them unless they cough up the financial records of the people the feds happen to be investigating criminally. If you want it really easy, you could open an account with an American bank that has foreign branches, transfer your money there and simply close that account and open one at a different bank when you go there physically. A technique is to put money in a foreign account, ask them for a Visa, MasterCard, or American Express card and authorize them to withdraw money from your account to pay for your credit card bills, debit credit card. Since the credit card is cleared in a foreign country, there's no paper trail. If you're a real big timer, you can get a foreign bank charter to open your own bank at a cost of $20,000 or so. Many countries have very liberal rules about what constitutes a bank, like just a small office with the occasional customer is often good enough. Check Subpart F income on your tax return for more information about this. Be wary of transfer fees. They could get expensive. Greece doesn't tax income derived from foreign sources. Artists don't pay tax on their artistic earnings in Ireland. Look for a place with British common law like the Caymans and Turks and Caicos because it will be more familiar with you. Barbados has an agreement with the US and Canada for the sharing of financial and tax information. Get your money in American funds because you eliminate currency exchange costs and the risk of a possible devaluation. Disgruntled wives are the best source of information for the tax man. Don't tell your wife too much and don't leave your paperwork for your dummy corporation or trust laying around your house because the tax people can come in anytime without a search warrant. They have their own rules. Keep your paperwork somewhere else, like at a friend's place or in a sealed envelope with stamps and an address on it, because nobody's allowed to open mail. Keep your mouth shut. Jealous people report tax avoiders to the tax man all the time. Offshore tax havens 10. Many people send their money offshore to what are called offshore financial centers/OFCs, banks, and other financial service companies that specialize in handling accounts set up by foreigners. This is done for proactive reasons, to protect oneself from the IRS, possible lawsuits, creditors you owe money to, barring burying your money, getting an alternative identity, or having a friend set up accounts for you in his name. It's the safest way to protect it. You're allowed to take your money out of the United States if you want to, but the banks and financial institutions are ordered to report any foreign transactions of $10,000 or over to the IRS. If you walk onto a cruise ship with a bag full of cash, chances are you won't be checked before you leave the US. Then when you get to Bermuda, the Bahamas, or wherever, you carry that bag of money to a stable bank that doesn't have branches in the United States and set up an account with a debit card allowing you to withdraw money from ATMs worldwide. Cruise ships are much laxer than airplanes for security. If a security guard sees you with a bag of money at the airport while he's checking your stuff for a trip to Barbados, he will report it because it's in his best interest to look like a good guard doing his job. Conversely, you can book a 3-day short cruise to the Bahamas and walk on the ship without any hassles. They even have ferries from the States to some of those islands. Your best bet is to learn ocean navigation, buy a little cabin cruiser and take jaunts over, or hire some charter to take you over without telling him you got a suitcase of cash on you. Americans just have to start bank accounts in Canada, and Canadians just have to start bank accounts in the US, either in person or by mail order. Send your checks and money orders through the mail. For more protection relatively close, there is a little island north of Prince Edward Island, Canada, called Saint Pierre-Miquelon, owned by France. You take a ferry ride there in the summer on your vacation, open a bank account, then send them deposits in the mail. Mexico is a stable country with some major stable banks. Taking money offshore is only illegal in the United States if you don't report it. If you follow the IRS rules of reporting offshore money, you're legal according to US laws, but you can probably gather how I feel about the IRS wanting to know where every cent I have is. I won't go into a rant here about the injustice of high income taxes. Many have already done that. I will just say that what this big bureaucracy, doesn't know won't hurt them. Use your head. If you live in Detroit, there is no reason why you shouldn't have a major bank account across the bridge in Windsor, Canada. If you live in New York City, save several $1,000s every year, then take a summer vacation or a winter skiing one to Montreal, where you deposit this cash into an account there. They can't stop you for it at the border. It's under the $10,000 reporting requirement, and it's for your vacation anyway. The only rights the American government has on foreign soil is to demand to know the bank holdings of extreme criminals like big-time drug dealers or terrorists. No foreign country, especially one with a tax haven reputation, will honor an American civil court judgment or an IRS judgment so your money is safe the minute you get it out of the US. Very, very few creditors or even the IRS will bother to try to litigate to gain the rights to an American's bank account in a foreign country. Foreign countries have procedures through the courts for this kind of stuff, but the creditors usually lose, so they don't even bother. The reason that foreign countries make it hard for creditors from other countries to collect judgments in their country is that they make a lot of money through offshore banking. If their reputation is compromised by allowing foreign governments and creditors to plunder their clients' bank accounts, these clients will go elsewhere. Suppose you have assets in Bermuda and some creditor comes and files liability papers within Bermuda to try to get a hearing to seize your assets. You simply move them to the Cayman Islands, and if they do it again, you move them again. It's that simple. America is not the center of the world. Once your money is out of there, it's safe. There's a whole other big world out there. Do what my buddy did. He ran his own landscaping business for 25 years without ever filing a tax return. Every year he went to Barbados and deposited some money into an account there. When he bought a house, he didn't even put it in his own name. He put it in his brother's name and allegedly paid him rent on it. When the IRS came calling, he gave his truck to his brother, jumped on a ship and went on to live in the Caribbean for a while. After a few years, he came back and started a new business under a new name. Many people take their liquid assets offshore, then at home, set up their house and car as owned by either a trust, LLC, or LP. The world is not kind to wealthy people simply because someone, even the government, always wants a piece of their wealth, so the prudent thing to do is to practice financial privacy, hide your money. Because of your social security number and mass computerization, there is no way to hide your money in any type of account in the United States. You either bury it somewhere or take it out of the country. The so-called war on drugs is really a war on wealthy people who want to avoid paying taxes because it gives the American government sweeping powers to spy on anyone making any number of international financial transactions through financial institutions at over $3,000. All financial institutions are obligated by law to report these transactions to the Treasury Department. This number used to be $10,000, but I heard that unofficially, it is now $3,000. Once the Treasury Department sees any individual making a number of these transactions, they investigate him and probably end up charging him with tax evasion. In a country that makes it hard for you to remove your wealth without paying taxes on it, it is only natural to want to diversify and go international. Who in their right minds thinks a 50% income tax on high earnings is fair? It's not complicated to set up a foreign bank account. You can spend lots of money on supposed experts or consultants who will set up some elaborate foreign trust or account for you, but it's as simple as setting up a bank or investment account here. Either by mail or in person, you open an account with either cash, a money order, traveler's checks, etc., anything except for checks that can tie you to your bank accounts in your home country. You can set up an account in your personal name, a numbered account in some places, Austria, Switzerland, with no name attached to it, just a number which indicates ownership, or a nominee account where you set yourself up with a business name. Such a foreign account should be enough to keep you beyond the reach of most creditors and government agents in your home country who know nothing about its existence unless they somehow find out and aggressively pressure that government to turn over its banking records on you, which is unlikely unless you're a big-time criminal or money launderer. You have to put yourself in such a position that if you get charged for tax evasion or get a lawsuit filed against you, you have a nest egg put away in a foreign account plus a second passport from another country that you have been living in or visiting, so that if the feds take your passport away, you can still bail with ease. Either that or learn how to sail and sail away from the coast of Florida. Do not open a foreign bank account at a branch of a foreign bank located in your home country. The home government will have access to these records. Either start an account by mail or physically go to the bank and start it. Don't keep paperwork from your foreign account at your home. Consider a postal box or mail forwarding service to receive your correspondence about your foreign bank account. There are foreign safety deposit boxes for rent just like here. You can easily rent one and hide your money in there. Offshore tax havens. 11. Your best bet is to own as little fixed assets in the United States as you can. You can set bank and brokerage accounts up in other countries. When you buy a house to live in, put it in your brother's name so that if the feds or creditors ever come looking for you, you do not own the house you live in and it can't be deemed a fraudulent transfer because it was either transferred out of your name a long time ago, 3 or more years, or you never had legal ownership of it in the first place. If worse comes to worse, you give your car away and go to country X where all your money is. There are statutes of limitations on some crimes, even tax evasion as far as I know, so you live elsewhere then return in a number of years if you want to. You don't have to start putting money away offshore big. Just start a small foreign bank account so you can wire money to it quickly if need be. Set up a Nevada corporation or a New Mexico LLC, and if you ever feel some creditor or the IRS moving in on you, transfer all your money there for the added privacy, then from there, transfer it to your foreign account offshore. Asset protection and tax avoidance are two different things. You can generally protect your assets quite easily from creditors and lawsuits, but the IRS is different. They pride themselves on destroying people. The reason I know this is because an IRS employee attended a workshop that was about destroying people you target even if they're innocent. You bring up minor technicalities and doublespeak such that this person gets paranoid. You strip them of their assets and throw them in jail. This is a tactic they use to silence enemies of the government and any other person they deem undesirable. This IRS employee taped this workshop, then transcribed it, and it appeared on the internet several years ago. I don't exactly know where this document is now, but I found it and read it then. Look up the terms IRS as criminals or IRS critics on search engines. There are a number of IRS critic websites out there. On one of them, the guy was running a prosperous company employing about 100 people or so. The IRS had some issue with him regarding some tax deductions. At the time, he was a big-time businessman. He didn't think it was a big deal. Being educated as a lawyer, he actually disputed them disallowing his deductions, which he later reflected on as a big mistake, to challenge the IRS. If he had accepted their initial assessment of disallowing those few deductions, he would have paid them and never would have had his company and his life destroyed by them. At the time, he thought it was minor stuff. He put the paperwork aside, then missed the meeting when the IRS agents came calling to talk to him. He still didn't think it was a big deal until his accounts were frozen, and that started then end of his company and the end of his marriage. I read this story on a website. There are many similar stories to this. The point is, don't mess with the IRS. They have big egos. If they decide they want to get you, they will. They will find you doing something illegal because the tax code is so complex that you can find everyone doing something illegal according to it. Beyond that, if you're charged with income tax evasion and elect a jury trial, these people in the jury are so intimidated by the IRS and the justice system that they will assume you must be guilty before the trial ever starts. If you're doing business legitimately and the IRS disputes some deductions, pay them and keep your mouth shut. If you are or are not paying your taxes for whatever reason, you never know when the IRS will target you. The only solution to protect yourself is to have as many of your assets as possible in a foreign bank account, have the house that you paid for in somebody else's name with a phony rental contract, and even have your car in someone else's name. When the IRS comes calling about irregularities, leave the country immediately. They have tons of cases. After a few years, you'll drop off the radar. Those agents will either retire, get other jobs, or forget about you so you can come back then, but never, ever underestimate the fact that they can destroy your life even if you're an honest businessman if they want to. The IRS's big beef is that you pay taxes on income earned anywhere in the world. If you pay taxes on your earnings in any given year, you have the legal right to set the remaining money up in a foreign account. The question of evasion is whether you have any money you earned that you didn't knowingly pay taxes on that you should have, but the catch-22 is that even if you are innocent of tax evasion, if you have money sitting in American accounts and the IRS decides you're a tax evader, that money is gone. Unless you've had it happen to you, you will think I'm a paranoid fool, but I say, why take that risk? In order to keep offshore accounts private and beyond the jurisdiction of the United States, pick a bank that has no US branches and set up your accounts with some kind of nominee, either as an IBC or a trust controlled by you. Every business has its incompetents and cheats. When you go for asset protection advice, don't go to the guys operating in back alleys or whizzing through town with a fly-by-night seminar. Go to the high-profile guys who have been in business for a number of years. Many people are worried about these foreign corporations stealing their money. As far as I know, this happened in Costa Rica and Panama once, where the government came in and plundered the assets owned by foreigners, Americans and Canadians, but that was a corrupt government doing it. The real tax haven nations will not stand for a corrupt financial services company in their midst, because their reputation as a safe tax haven nation, therefore their livelihood depends on it. Think about it. Why rip off a few guys one time then lose your reputation as a great tax haven nation when you can have a cash cow forever? It's good business sense for them to be honest and treat you right, and if there is a charlatan in their midst, they will get rid of him on their own and make it right to keep the ripped off people quiet. Don't worry about taking money offshore to a stable country. Your money is as safe there as anywhere. Life doesn't stop when you leave the US. There's a whole big, other world out there doing fine without the US. There have been cases where the IRS finds that a so-called tax delinquent has accounts or a trust in another country. They have ordered that person to convert that money into a form which they can readily seize. When he refuses, they throw him in jail for contempt of court and try to keep him there until he coughs up the money. With the stiff penalties for tax evasion, this is not that hard. Even if you follow all the rules about taking money offshore and setting up a trust well before you ever have lawsuits against you, you might be able to legally beat all your civil creditors and any lawsuit judgment against you after you have put your money away in a foreign trust, but you can't beat the IRS if they're onto you and you're physically in the US. Before you are ever charged for tax evasion, the IRS likes to pull a surprise search warrant to see what else they can find before they actually file the charges, so you cannot have any evidence of hidden foreign accounts or trusts in your home. If you do, have the information in some kind of code. They could confiscate your computers, so have back UPS. The IRS are trained to look for cash and important papers hidden in the home. They especially look in the basement. I used to hide money in a VCR until I realized that if somebody ever broke in, that would be the first thing they would steal. After that, I put it in amongst a bunch of junk in the basement, but this is where the IRS often look. They know that people think that nobody will look there for money. It has to be a fireproof area too. If they somehow find out you have money hidden in foreign accounts and you're physically in the United States, they'll throw your ass in jail until you cough up the fine and penalties they assess on you. Privacy and asset protection are two different concepts. You can get privacy by setting up an IBC, International Business Corporation, in a foreign country, but it doesn't legally protect your money. If any creditor finds out that you own a certain IBC, they could petition the court in that country for you to transfer that money back to your name so they can claim it. They won't believe any stories you say that you gifted the money to the corporation or some other foolish lie. Legally speaking, when a creditor takes you to court and they ask you if you have offshore assets, if you lie, it's the criminal offense of perjury. It doesn't matter if the accounts are in your name or in the name of a dummy IBC that you control. If you control it, it's in your possession, therefore can be ordered by creditors to turn it over or be held in contempt of court and thrown in jail until such time as you turn the money over. This is the law, but what they don't know won't hurt them, so don't leave a paper trail, don't leave account papers laying around in your home, don't tell anyone you have an account in Jamaica or wherever. Do it quietly. By paper trail, I mean don't write a check from your account in the US and deposit it directly to your account in the Cayman Islands. Get it in cash, take it there, buy money orders or do a deposit transfer through a credit card you have, since people usually associate credit cards with debits, not as asserts, so they don't investigate them much. Some people write a check from their personal account to the New Mexico LLC or the Nevada corporation they own, and from there, transfer the money to their bank account in Ireland. Another option, as I've already stated elsewhere, is that you buy a house in Barbados. Americans can buy houses anywhere without rules by the American government, you make a big withdrawal from your American bank account to pay for the house, you photocopy the real estate deed, put the house immediately up for sale, a local in Barbados buys the house, you get the money, put it in a Barbados bank account, and you've gotten the money out without the risk of committing a crime by taking a pile of cash out without declaring it. Offshore tax havens. 12. You can get around local regulations by opening an account by mail in almost any tax haven in the world without an ID. You can use any name you want, but you still usually have to furnish an address. This requirement isn't a problem to most individuals, for they will usually set up a series of resident addresses or confidential mailing addresses through mail drops spread throughout the world. Still, the risk of detection by some government authority having records of your account down the line is more than slight unless you are very clever. Most people have heard of Interpol, the international police agency supported by many governments, but few have heard of Interpol, the international fiscal police. This organization is quietly starting to come into its own. If you happen to have or someday create a tax problem in any OECD country, you can rest assured that you and your money will be hunted prey. It may take some time, but your money will be taken out of circulation. Even keeping your money in a variety of European, Asian, and/or offshore banks doesn't preclude the fact that you still show up on the bank's computers as a foreign account. With today's almost total lack of true banking secrecy, banking authorities can be persuaded to do a little computer search and give the records to Interpol snoops from other countries. Governments have taken advantage of the drug laws to create a red herring. In using the red herring of hunting down big-time drug sellers, they have been able to convince governmental authorities around the world to open their bank accounts to them, when in reality, what they really want is to find all the money that they suspect is being hidden away by the small to large account holder from their tax bite. Armed with the bank's records, they can then hunt down your money and confiscate it under some pretense, either real or imaginary. If you can be identified as owning an account, your money isn't safe in countries with so-called bank secrecy laws. The trick is to have an account in a good bank secrecy law country in which no one but you has any idea who the owner of the account is. If a government agency wants to know your financial position in a bank bad enough, secrecy laws in place or not, otherwise unattainable records are provided in record time. To open a bank account you need ID. In your own country, usually a driver's license or national identity card will do. Walk into a bank abroad to open an account and it usually can be done, but you must produce your passport for ID as well as an address. The bank photocopies the passport and your address before opening the account. In some countries and in most offshore banking centers, it is possible to open an account by mail without any photocopy of your passport or other ID, but you still must provide an address for bank communications. The address is the weak link if you are seeking secure financial privacy. Some offshore centers like the Isle of Man require a reference from another bank or 2 references from professional people who will swear you are who you say you are. With any of the above options, you are luring yourself into a false sense of security or have broken more laws than one wants to in trying to preserve your right to financial privacy. There are second passports you can use for banking purposes. Banking passport. This passport is almost always issued in your pen name and probably has a mail drop address associated with the paperwork needed to issue the passport. If you use a legally issued second passport, not a forged or stolen blank, and you use it low profile and remain yourself low profile, you only have a very slight risk of future ramifications. If you are going to stash away a considerable amount of your assets, this may be the recommended way to go. You may obtain legally issued second foreign passports from a broker or directly from some governments who provide second travel documents because of some aid you have provided to their pet government projects. Be careful with brokers, for 90% of them are crooks. Use only recommended or successful brokers who personally escrow the associated costs until the documents are delivered. This passport can be used for banking purposes and used in conjunction with a daisy chain of banks through transit accounts to make your money and you almost untraceable. Offshore tax havens. 13. You could be sued, your business could fail and still owe taxes, the IRS could come after you, or you could get divorced. In each of these cases, if your money and assets aren't protected, most likely in an offshore account, you could end up losing all of it. Nobody takes this issue seriously until one of these situations happens, but by then it's too late. If it goes to court and they find big transfers after an action was filed against you, it's fraudulent transfer/conveyance. But if you put a bunch of money away offshore before any action is filed against you, it's safe from the people and the government of the country you live in. When lawyers do a check of your assets in your home country, they will see that you have almost nothing, so many won't even bother filing their actions against you. They often don't check on assets worldwide, firstly because you can set up accounts in nominee names as opposed to your real name, which make them undetectable, and secondly, lawyers and IRS agents know that the headaches to bring legal action in another country to try to get a person's assets are often not worth the hassle, plus the fact that they could lose in the foreign courts. So the general rule of thumb, unless the defendant is filthy rich and the prize is worthwhile, going for like over $15 million, is to not bother chasing down a defendant's assets located outside the country. Ideally, asset protection should be legal, which means you don't hide money, because that could bring up charges of perjury in court and also money laundering or obstruction of justice charges when dealing with the IRS. Try to keep it legal with the help of a good offshore asset advisor. The fees you pay a good offshore asset advisor are worth more than the possible money you could lose if you don't take steps to protect it. The safest way to protect your assets is to make them as liquid as possible. Sell your house to a relative now and pay them rent, at least on paper. Drive an old car or put it in someone else's name now, not when you get sued or divorced. Cash in all your stocks, mutual funds, and bonds and set up a stock account in another country. Whatever you keep physically in your home country can either be seized or taken away through a fraudulent conveyance judgment in court. Your best bet is to get a foreign account with a credit card or debit card attached to it, so you can get cash from an ATM whenever you feel like it. Specify a huge daily limit if you want. If you don't own much, there are domestic asset protection methods such as corporations, limited liability companies, limited partnership, family limited partnership, state homestead laws, insurance, annuities, and retirement accounts in some states, domestic irrevocable trust, joint ownership or tenants by the entirety by a husband and wife. Take loans or mortgages out on assets you own from friends even though you don't need them. This is called equity stripping. Some countries honor the civil and criminal decrees of other countries. These are not good choices for setting up an account offshore. Pick a tax haven nation that does not enforce the civil decrees of other nations, particularly those of the United States and Canada. If a government or court wants to enforce a civil decree in a tax haven nation, they have to file a court case there and have it heard by that government. These nations are generally protective of their account holders because they want to keep their reputation as a good tax haven nation. There are many politically stable tax haven nations around. The Caribbean islands are good, several British islands are good like the Isle of Man, Jersey, and Guernsey, the Channel Islands, most of Europe, a few Asian countries like the Philippines, Hong Kong, and Singapore, some Mediterranean islands, Cyprus, Malta, Gibraltar, and even some Pacific islands, Cook Islands. Another advantage of keeping assets hidden away is financial privacy, in the sense that you unscrupulous people or lawyers might do research on your assets up front, then decide whether or not to file a lawsuit based on their findings. If they don't find much, there is much less chance of some kind of lawsuit being filed against you. Think of a bank account in a foreign, politically stable nation just like a bank account here. There's no great difference. It runs on the same concept. You can transfer money by sending a check, a money order, even cash, or bringing it personally, but if you transfer $10,000 or more, you have to report it to U.S. Customs. American citizens with $10,000 or more in a foreign account must check off that box on your tax form. The way around this is to set up accounts that are not in your name but rather owned by either a company, limited liability company, such as the Nevis LLC, a foreign asset protection trust, with a trustee other than you, probably a bank officer, or a private foundation that is discreetly controlled by you. I can't do justice to discussing these entities here. Type the terms into search engines and talk to a good offshore financial advisor about them. With an offshore trust, your trustee can appoint an investment advisor who answers to you, so you would have control over how your money is invested. Under Article 81 of the Swiss Insurance Act, Swiss annuities are immune from creditors worldwide.